Hi YouTube, I'm Ali, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the mini-series all about game design and game design ideas. Now, having been fortunate enough to spend some time chatting with 5 amazingly knowledgeable and talented game designers, I've come away with a heap more knowledge and experience on what it will take to shape my initial ideas. From that, I've derived 5 top tips, things that I think would help me and you as a budding game designer on your way. Now, I've not put any of these tips in any particular order. I think they're all just as important as each other, but we've got to start somewhere. So let's start at the top. Well, let's start at the top after this small ask for a sub. So let's start by keeping it simple. That's our first top tip. Start with the core mechanics or the core game as your basis and develop from there. Adam suggested developing in a modular fashion, which I really liked. Start simple, bolt on extensions of the game or different phases of the game as you progress, testing each phase as you go. If you don't like something, you can take away that phase or that function or that mechanic and try something else. Keep it simple and you can build upon it as time goes on. If you feel that you have got a really good idea for a second set of rules or additional gameplay, but that you're going to overwhelm what you start with because you're trying to keep it simple, well then perhaps that would be the perfect candidate to put into an expansion later on. Now, I want to stress that when I say keep it simple, I don't necessarily mean the game has to be simplistic. You can have quite complex games at the end of your development, but to start with a base mechanic, start with a core game. When I started this little journey, I was under the assumption that all ideas were either centered around building a theme on a really clever mechanic you had thought of, or building mechanics around a really clever theme that you had thought of. Well, the reality was that actually both are important, but neither are as important as the player experience. What is it that you want your players to feel? Now, above everything, it's got to be fun. For it to be a game, you have to have fun. It seems obvious, but sometimes we forget that because we're really caught up in our theme or our mechanics. More often it's mechanics. Fun for you may be different for fun for me. A game of Snap is fun if I'm playing with my little nephew, for example, but it's only fun for a few rounds, and even then he'll get bored. Imagine that same fun game being played for 3 hours with a Grandmaster's chess champion. It's fun for no one. It's very dull. Similarly, a very complex game may not be fun for someone of a very young age or someone who's looking for something that's much more random to play. You need to think of what the end result's going to be, who you're targeting for, and ensure that that player experience is felt through your mechanics and through your theme. Remember, mechanics and theme can all be adjusted to find and fit that game or experience. Thinking back to Zintis and his cave paintings game, he had an idea of what he wanted his players to feel and then adjusted his mechanics to be able to get that player experience through in his game. Now, I'm paraphrasing, but Mal had said to me that amazing ideas were built on the scaffolding of existing ideas. What he was actually saying there is that you should not be afraid of using what's out there and adjusting it to your own ends. Again, that was iterated by others that I spoke with. And every time I read something in a forum or I go through an interview on paper, I read the same things. Don't be afraid to use some of the ideas that already exist, but tweak them and make them your own. Maybe you've got a great setting and you've seen a really good mechanic. There's nothing wrong with taking the mechanic, tweaking it and adjusting it to fit into your theme, creating a completely different player experience and really the beginnings of a new game. Don't be afraid to reuse what's out there. Obviously, you're going to have to test your ideas. But even before you begin that process of building a prototype or a set of test components, one of the top ways of validating whether you have even the beginnings of a good game is to share the idea. And sharing the idea is one of the things I had a big problem with and still have a big problem with. But from all of the developers, I heard the same thing. Sharing your idea means you get more feedback on what is possible. The idea you have at the moment is really a problem. It's a problem that needs a solution, and that solution will end up being your game. But right now, you've got this wonderful idea that you want to put down onto paper or onto card, and you don't know how. Well, share it. Put it out there on Reddit or on Board Game Geek or on Board Game Atlas or any one of the hundreds of outlets that they exist on the web now. Have that conversation. You don't need to share the finer details if you don't want to, but share the general idea and get that feedback. What do people think? Does this seem like a good theme? Is this taboo? Is it something that you don't think is going to be thought of? Share the idea. Benefit from the wealth of knowledge that's out there. And finally, you're going to fail. Some of those ideas are just not going to fit in the theme or the player experience you're looking for. Some of those themes just aren't right for the game mechanics that you've created. And sometimes, no matter what you do, your player mechanics, your game experience, it's just not working. Your experience is just not fun. And that's okay. Be aware that especially if you go down the publishing route where you get a publisher on board, your idea is going to be changed. Your initial thoughts are going to be completely transformed. Your artwork that you may have envisaged will change. All of that is okay. None of that is a bad thing, and there are no bad ideas. Just record them down in your journal and use them in the next project, use them in the next game. Again, when I interviewed those guys, I heard the same stories. I heard the fact that they tried something, it didn't quite work, and then they were on a different project, a completely different game, and they were thinking about how to solve a problem, and lo and behold, they had the solution. It existed from a previous project or a previous game they'd worked on. There's nothing wrong in having a bit of failure. Failure is how we measure success, as they say. Oh God, I've ended on a cliche. I'm sorry, but it's true. Well, folks, I hope you found that useful. I know I did. I want to take time out again to say thank you to the 5 individuals and a multitude of people on Reddit, especially, for helping me out and understanding exactly what it takes to shape a good game idea. Now that I've done that, I think I'm ready to move on to the next stage, which on my little pathway is the creation of something I can share with the rest of the world, the so-called prototype. Now, as before, I'm going to take time out to go off, do some research, maybe chat to a few people, but whatever I do, I'm going to bring it back to this channel and share it all with you. If you want to be a part of that, please click the subscribe button, hit the little notification bell as well, and then you'll be notified exactly when I release the next episode. Until next time then, folks, take care.